Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're on location because we needed a lift to do a lot of things that we're getting done today. One of which is going to be installing the JKS sway bar disconnects. Stay tuned. Okay, the first thing that we need to do in order to install these sway bar disconnects is remove the old sway bar end links. Now you've got a bolt at the top and a bolt on the side. I recommend a couple weeks before that you do this, you hit them with either some PB Blaster, which is what I prefer, or some WD-40 or some kind of penetrating oil, and just soak them every other day for about 2 weeks. That's going to help get the bolts off as well as prevent them from getting broken. So that's the first step that we've done. Okay, now that we've got the old sway bar end links off of the vehicle, the next step is to install the upper bracket assembly on the sway bar. You can see that here. You've got a bolt that goes through, a washer at the bottom. Very important to make sure that this bracket goes over the top of the sway bar, and then there's a nylon nut that goes on the top. Now, probably the hardest part of this entire install is going to be getting these studs off these bottom brackets. Okay, I've tried an air hammer, I've tried a regular hammer, nothing seems to work. So what I've done is I've went ahead and cut the stud to be a little bit shorter and went ahead and got this is a ball joint puller or a tie rod end puller, whichever. They are both, basically. Now what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to go around the back side of the bracket and press that stud out. If you try to hit with a hammer, you're going to run the risk of bending the bracket, and the more you bend it, the weaker it's going to be, and eventually it'll end up breaking off. So that's the process that we're going to take to get these off. Once we get that done, we'll come back and show you the next step in this install. Stay tuned. All right, now that we've got one side off, which is the easier side because you don't have your steering in the way, I wanted to show you the stud so you can see what it looks like after it comes out. Now if you look at the stud here, you see it's got ribs on it. And the only way of getting this thing off is to press it off. I've talked to several people, oh, I just hit it with a hammer, it comes right out, this, that, and the other. Well, that wasn't the case with me. The only way you're going to get this off is to get the ball joint puller. So just do yourself a favor. Save yourself a lot of headache, hassle, busted knuckles, blood, sweat, and tears. And just go either rent one. They're like $20 at an auto parts store. You'll use it for a lot more than just pulling these off. So I highly recommend just doing that. It took maybe a minute to get this off after it was cut down to proper size. Now I want to show you something else. When I cut this off, okay, what I did is I made sure I used this nut. And I screwed the nut back on while it was still on the vehicle. And what this does is this gives an indentation or a recessed area for the puller to go into and stabilize. If you cut this stud off crooked or at an angle or something like that, and you don't have something to center the puller with, what will end up happening is it may slip off. It may slip off. So doing this gives you something for this taper to fit into like that, and it makes a 100% positive contact. So if you can, I would recommend doing it that way. That's going to be the most efficient way of getting this out as well as the most stable. So we're going to go ahead and get the next side done, and then we'll be back and show you the rest of the install. Stay tuned. Okay. Now that we have the old studs pressed out, it's time to install the lower portion of the kit, which is this piece here. Now if you look closely, it has a hole at the end, because what happens is that the cotter pin goes through this, and that's what holds the link on at the bottom. Also allows you to disconnect it when you're going to go off-roading. So, and this kit also includes this rubber bushing. So make sure you have this rubber bushing on this. That's going to keep the sway bar oriented in the right location and keep it from binding. So it's just a matter of taking this, sticking it through the old hole where the stud was that you pressed out, and then taking the included nylon nut, installing it on the end. Now this has to get torqued to 65 foot-pounds, and it would probably be next to impossible to do that and keep the hole that's in this in the right location, because of course when you're trying to tighten it, it's going to want to spin. So if you can get a small screwdriver Allen wrench, just something to assist you in holding that in the proper location, which I found a small start head driver that will fit in here. You can hold that in position while you're tightening that down and torquing it to specification. So that's what we're going to be doing next, and we'll see when we get back. Okay, so the next step after you get the bottom stud installed is to come up with the length that you're going to need for your particular lift kit, your lift height, etc. What we did was we put an angle gauge on our sway bar at 0, rotated it up till we got to about 10 degrees, and then lengthened the sway bar disconnect to get to that angle into that proper length. And then it's just a matter of sticking the top bolt in, tightening it down, putting the cotter pin through, tight in, bringing it over the stud so it locks itself into place. And then you have grease zerks at the top and the bottom of both the disconnects. And you want to do about 2 pumps in the top, and we did about 4 to 5 pumps in the bottom. After that, it's finished. Thanks for watching.